everyone. My guest today's Latina MMA and BJJ specialist, voiceover host, and commentator Alex Wendling. How you doing, Alex?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing great. I'm coming off of a high from a BJJ nerd live chat that Craig Jones even crashed. So things are good. It's Friday. How are you doing?
Oh, I'm. It's any other day. I'll say it's.
I
It's
love
exciting though to have you here. I really appreciate your time.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you reaching out. I think it was MMA Twitter that we got connected through, right?
Yeah, definitely. And no, I just enjoy like the conversation and getting to know, uh, different people and different backgrounds. And I see, you host MMA events, you conduct interviews, and then you're legitimately trained in MMA, correct?
Yeah, I've been training in MMA only for like a year, and I'm definitely more of the jujitsu nerd. So sometimes I'll like just make it a grappling extravaganza. But when it comes to competing, only jujitsu.
Okay. And what came like first to you wanting to host or train? Like when did you get this bug, like the bug of a MMA, like really, taking it as serious as you do?
So I've been studying to be a broadcaster since I was very little. Maybe not particularly to be a broadcaster, but I always knew my mom was a reporter, so I always knew I wanted to be a reporter. But then it shifted more into sports as I got into college. I specialized in sports marketing. And then from there, I was just doing regular sports, basketball, soccer, volleyball, covering that. And COVID happened, so that basically laid me off and like everyone else in the department because just sports were canceled. So I
Hmm.
moved to Southern California, which was like the opposite of what everyone does. I did Florida to California. Everyone was doing California to Florida.
Hmm.
But basically just started interviewing a bunch of different people in the jiu-jitsu world, going to random tournaments and trying to get the time of day for anyone that would give me the time of day, and made a YouTube channel. And through that, I think some of my stuff was seen online. Got a call from different platforms like Haymakers, which is like a random channel on Instagram, and then Karate Combat reached out, and now we're with Combate Global. So it's kind of just word of mouth and networking. But yeah, it really started to fall specifically into MMA right after COVID, but that wasn't my initial interest in MMA. My initial interest in MMA was 2015, Ronda Rousey, Conor McGregor surge. So a lot of the time when the BJ or the casuals came in, but also I was always like a fan of WWE growing up. And so that was definitely like the combat sports that I was into when I was younger, but then it transitioned into MMA.
Oh no, that's great. No, I love wrestling too. Even though I don't know, it's great to see such a big boom in casual fans, like you're saying, even with MMA and professional, or what do you call it? Professional wrestling. I don't know what you'd call it.
Yeah,
Sports entertainment, right?
exactly. Yeah. I auditioned for WWE in 2021 in Las Vegas. I didn't get it, and that was like my big sign for me that I want to start pursuing competitions in jiu-jitsu. And I'm honestly so happy that it happened because a lot of the girls that I auditioned with, they've had the craziest of injuries. Obviously you can get injured in jiu-jitsu as well, but theirs were so different, like just stuff you would get from professional wrestling. So I think my path was definitely meant for me to be more the reporter and broadcaster type instead of the promo cut and wrestler. But I have so much respect for what they do in the wrestling scene because it's hard. Like the way they teach you to roll over, like in jiu-jitsu, they teach you to like protect your neck so you're rolling not right on your neck. But in wrestling, they want you to roll over your neck. And I'm like, you just build up, I guess, an immunization to that. And but it's crazy. I respect it all for sure.
No, that's exciting. That's exciting to know that you tried out, and yeah, that I always see that too. Like, of course, people say it's fake, blah blah blah. Everybody knows whatever, but it's still respect because you're learning to take the bumps. Whereas, like you said, here you're protecting yourself. Over there, you're learning to take take the bump and get hurt.
Exactly. And I'm reading the book Shamrock right now, where they talk about how wrestling wasn't actually fake at all, and they're just like straight up fighting out there. So now, obviously, it's like meant to take a bump, but there was a point in pro wrestling history where they were just fighting, and like
Yeah.
you're like, you just got to go for it, and then they end up having, whoever was supposed to win, but sometimes they didn't even like decide beforehand. So it's crazy. The history of wrestling is really a iconic thing.
Yeah, it's fun. It's fun to read about and then to actually live about it. What makes you more nervous? Uh, would it be like preparing for an interview or preparing for a fight? Because I know you said you're training. Like, do you kind of like in? Is it both the same, like mentally and physically, like preparing for each one?
I think at this point, competing in tournaments is more nerve wracking for me because I haven't done it in a while. I was kind of dealing with different injuries. And now that I'm becoming so focused and committed to my craft with on camera stuff, I don't get as nervous for that. So yeah, I would definitely be jujitsu stuff because I've been keeping myself busy this week with all the coverage. But I have a competition coming up tomorrow, and it's going to be my first competition at blue belt. And I haven't let the nerves hit me because I've been so busy. But I know tomorrow I'll feel it. So, but I'm going to embrace that excitement and anxiety are the same thing, and I'm just going to be positive about it. Like I want to have fun. I want to go out there and showcase what I know. So
No, it's great, and I imagine even in defeat, you still learn more than in victory. I don't know. Is it something like that, right?
yeah, 100%. Like I do not fear being submitted. I love to be submitted because that exposes a hole in my game that I wasn't aware of or that I need to be aware of and fix. So I'm just approaching this jujitsu competition with like a loving mindset. Like I love to submit people. I love to win, but I also love to learn more about the weaknesses in my game. So we're gonna find out tomorrow.
Well, no, good luck with that. It's exciting
Thank
for
you.
sure. And I know this is more of a recent thing with Caitlin Clark coming into the WNBA. I'm sure that's hard to like, especially someone you in the sports journalism type thing to ignore. Do you believe it's sort of like a bottle in or a lightning in a bottle moment that'll just kind of be there and then fade away, or her popularity maybe it'll like continue and then like a ripple effect to other sports, or just sort of stay there in the WNBA?
I think Caitlin Clark's impact could really transcend the whole sport of basketball and just women in sports. I don't know. I just feel like she's the hottest topic when it comes to anything, like her not making the Olympic team, people bullying her on the court. So I just think it's good for all women's sports because we already are having waves being made in the jiu-jitsu scene with women being paid the same amount as ADCC men's divisions now. So I really just think that with every single advocate that we have for being an emblem of women in sport is an awesome thing. You have Fionn Davis, you have Caitlin Clark, you have Danielle Kelly, you have Rose Namajunas. Like if all these women just show how strong and powerful they are, I think that will just transcend women's sports in general. So I'm here for it. I'm supporting it. I love it.
No, yeah, I'm the same way too with having two nieces. I know I like seeing seeing, and especially them both being Latin as well, seeing that. I don't know, like it's nice to see women like the equality, you know what I mean? Because they do deserve it
Yes.
just as much. They are just as athletic, and it's amazing. It really is,
De donde eres? Where are you from?
I know very little. I know Dora the Explorer Spanish. I'm in San Antonio,
Oh,
Texas.
okay, but what type of Hispanic are you?
I am Mexican.
Oh, cool, cool,
I
nice. A mí
I'm the
también.
I'm my grandparents. They literally were like, "Do not teach them Spanish," because they grew up during the times where their hands would get hit with rulers if they spoke Spanish out loud. So
That's similar
they
to what my grandma said.
so it ended up biting me in the butt later on in life. But that's how my grandparents were. They're like, no, don't teach him Spanish because they're gonna tease him. They're gonna think he's different, et cetera.
You
Uh,
still have time. You can still learn. I have an Italki teacher, and then I'm on my 520 something day streak with Duolingo. Not saying that I'm very good at speaking Spanish. Like I still struggle, but it's so fun to try to challenge my brain in that way because like languages for me has always been something's not clicking. So I keep trying, but
Oh yeah, and then I feel like people will speak Spanish now more than English here, especially like in America in the South. It's crazy, you know.
Yes, I'm always in Miami. I get the same, that's for sure. In Miami, if you don't know how to speak Spanish, you're not speaking to your Uber driver or CVS. Everything's in Spanish. I like it. I like it a lot.
No, it is a good thing. I just it's not beneficial for me because I don't know it, but it is a good thing. I'm proud that it is, even though I can't really participate in it. You know, with the rise of combat sports, you know, like it feels like the UFC is really booming right now. And there's, I would say, I don't know what's the best way to call them, alternatives, where you have like the 5 versus 1, the car jitsu. I don't know if you've seen that, those weird sort of gimmick fights. Do you think these alternatives kind of flood the internet and make combat sports look a little more silly, or do you think they help? What's your opinion on those kind of events?
Yeah, I think combat sports will forever be a little bit of the wild, wild west. But with the UFC becoming a public uh, organization and really making themselves like an official sport with ESPN, I feel like they get that sort of respect. And then you have so many spin offs of different combat, which is like bare knuckle boxing. And then uh, I wouldn't say karate combat's like a spin off. I think that's their own lane. Uh, com- what is the car jujitsu that you just mentioned? Like, there's just so much content being consumed. As a social media manager, I know it's like almost to an unhealthy. It is not almost. It is to an unhealthy rate. How much content there is to consume, how much content there is to create. But it's creating jobs. It's like I think a good thing in the long run. But I do think, like, as a broadcaster, I don't like to accept certain gigs that I feel like are too gimmicky. I like to stick with like the professional sports, like the professional grappling federations, the premier Hispanic promotions, because that's just kind of what goes with my brand. But I don't hate on the influencer boxing. I don't hate on the car jujitsu and different things like that. I think it's fun. And if the price is right for these different fighters or commentators or whoever is involved, then good on them for getting the bag.
No, yeah, that sounds about right. You know, as far as it just being, it is a gimmick, but it is fun to watch. It's you can't not look at it.
Everyone has their taste for sure. Like the power
Hmm.
slap stuff, if that's your thing. I mean, I personally don't think I would ever cover like a power slap type thing. But in this industry, you can never say never. You can wake up one day and all your crypto is gone or whatever people are doing now. So, and you need to do something in a pinch. But yeah, I don't judge. I just try to stay in my lane.
And I see the amazing work you're doing, you know, with Combat Sport News. And where do you see yourself kind of going from here? You said you're about to like, you know, fight professionally, or just
Not professionally, just grappling tournaments, regional grappling tournaments, and then maybe an amateur MMA fight coming up in the future here.
do you plan to like continue exploring that, or just expand your media presence, or do a little bit of both here, there, just a little bit of whatever comes up?
I definitely feel like if the price was right and we, had a potential boxing match or something like that, or a MMA match, I would do it. But at the amateur level, I probably wouldn't do much fighting just for the sake of like head damage and stuff. But jujitsu, I feel like is good to like challenge me to get out there and feel those nerves. So I'll definitely continue with that. But in terms of fighting for that UFC championship belt, I don't think that'll happen anytime soon.
And I'm sure it gives you a better understanding and appreciation for the events you do cover when you know what the athletes go through themselves, you know.
Yes, exactly. You couldn't have said it any better. That's a big reason why I do it, because it's so much better to be able to empathize with them, at least in some way. I know jujitsu is not actually fighting in some people's minds, so that is definitely a big reason why I like to try to do it.
No, that's great. And what advice would you give to young fighters who you know, because you've interviewed a lot of fighters, I imagine, or a lot of, you know, UFC personalities. What advice would you give someone that you feel like you've seen maybe someone overlook, or when they've talked to you and then you've seen them end up fighting, they may have made this mistake or that mistake. What advice would you give, if you could, to them?
Yeah, so I definitely can't give any fighters fighting advice, but I can give advice. And I was going to make a YouTube video about this that you guys can check out at some point. But basically, trying to understand the most important moments of your fight marketing wise. You'll see, like, when people are getting their name announced, like, you know, you're having your Bruce Buffer moment and the camera's on you. And this is your minute of the broadcast that is completely dedicated to you. So make the most of it. Recognize that that's your moment, and don't be facing away from the camera talking to your coaches. Make something memorable about you in that moment. If you just got a crazy knockout and your opponent is on the floor and they're getting their bearings together, don't go to your opponent and console them. 45 seconds of on-camera time where you can really make a statement to the fans and connect. So you shouldn't be spending it taking care of someone else. Like, you just knocked someone out, you just submitted someone, go run up to one of those cameras, make sure that the red light is on you, and say something awesome. Say something that will really connect your audience and really build your brand. Because as someone who's been working in combat sports social media since 2020, I know what moments go viral. I know what moves the needle online. And it's not always the Conor McGregors and the Ronda Rouseys of the world. It's the random people on a roster who you might not have heard of just doing something that really connects them to their audience or really stands out. So that's what my recommendation would be. Like, really live your truth in that moment. Don't do anything that doesn't align with what your brand is. I mean, unless you are like a Colby Covington like person and that's what you do.
Hmm.
So really just figure out what works for you and what you're trying to portray to the audience and make the most of it when you have your shot.
No, that's great. And finally, here, I don't want to take away any more time. What song would you come out to if you were gonna come out to a song when you're about to fight? What's your song?
It's so funny because I always like hear a good song and then I'm like, okay, I need to write this in my notes and make sure that that is the song that I would walk out to, because I never have a good answer to this question. And the only one that comes to mind is freaking Gimme More by Britney Spears. And it's just like, it's Britney, bitch. And I'm walking in on the bass drop. That's the one that comes to mind. But I know there's so many more cooler songs. But I feel like for me, I would probably want something that's a little bit sassy, a little bit feminine. So we're going with Britney Spears, baby.
That's great. And again, Alex, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. I have all your kind of info down there. Where can people find you?
Yes, thank you so much. So I recently changed my Instagram to Alex Wendling X, just because Combate Global was putting my Instagram as, they were putting my shout out as Alex Wendling X. So I'm like, let me just go the same on all platforms because it makes it easier. So you can find me at Alex Wendling X on TikTok, Twitter, or X. That's originally where I got it. Or also on YouTube, you can find me. A lot of jujitsu nerdin content on there, and also Latina MMA niche, because I work with Combate Global, which you can watch on Fuse TV or Univision. So you guys should definitely check me out there. I think that's all the platforms that I'm really on. I also have a Facebook page that I need to like populate more of, but those are the main ones.
Okay, well, no, and I hope we get to see you more. And again, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Lorenzo. It's such an honor to have been asked on, so I really appreciate it.
No, thank you, and we'll see all y'all later. Take care. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Bye.